So this series we'll be working on Heian Nidan. Now, in case you missed it, we had done a series on Heian Shodan, so make sure you check that out if you haven't done so yet. Hello and welcome back to the channel. If you just joined us, you are watching Norwich Karate Academy. Be sure to check out all our other videos, and while you're there, click the subscribe button to keep up to date with all our content. So now, this first top tip is a fantastic way for beginners to really get to grips with this new kata, but if you're experienced, it's a really good way to fine-tune your techniques. So this can be quite notable on several techniques in certain parts of the kata, more so when it comes to the start of the kata. It's making sure that you don't skip any moves and you are fully preparing each technique. So when you're doing the start of the kata, it's making sure your hands go all the way back to your hip before you then execute the first move. Yes, if you're a bit more experienced, you may perform this differently and a little bit quicker. But for the purpose of this video, if you're a beginner, get every single move right before you move on to the next. So it's making sure you fully pull your hand back to your hip before you then bring your arm out. So then when you perform the next move, this movement comes in towards your chest, but when you perform this move, it's not about a small technique. It's about making sure you fully prepare or you fully utilize the movement before you execute the next move. The problem is a lot of people tend to do this very quickly, so they tend to skip the moves. So when you perform this move, it's making sure that this arm reaches out as if you're doing an uppercut to an opponent before you then pull your hand back, fully back to your hip to perform this next punch. And then you perform it the other way as well, so that your hands come all the way back to your hip before you perform the move. There's no just throwing your arms out. It's fully preparing the move before you execute the next move here. And then once your arm comes in, you have that full range of movement to think like an uppercut before you pull your hand back. The problem is a lot of people tend to do these moves very quickly, but just doing it quickly doesn't mean it's done correctly. Now, if you're a beginner, you're probably going to agree with me that the block, kick, punch sequence toward the end is the more tricky part. Now, to keep in mind what we talked about, if you think about preparation, this actually highlights a really important part of this sequence, and this little drill will help you remember the sequence going forward so you understand which arm and leg has to move. So, to keep things really simple, performing the inside block with full preparation, and then once you step forward, you're stepping forward with your opposite leg. And you can repeat this every single time so that whichever arm prepares, the opposite leg goes forward, and you're getting used to this movement. Because at a beginner level, you very rarely do blocks on the reverse side. So it's getting used to making sure that you prepare and your opposite leg goes forward to make sure that you perform the reverse inside block when it comes to doing this kata. And then eventually you can start moving a little bit quicker and then making sure you perform the preparation and step forward, making sure that you're still traveling in a straight line and opposing your arms every single time when you step forward in the stance, so that you're getting used to opposites when you do the blocks and stepping forward. Now, Heian Nidan requires certain timings in certain parts of the kata, and we're just going to focus on two parts of the kata that have a specific timing that could be a little bit different to the rest of the kata. So especially at the start of Heian Nidan, if you get this timing right, you can make your kata look really sharp from the off. Now, when you are a beginner, you possibly learnt the kata in section to remember it, such as 1, 2, and then performing another 1, 2, to then preparing the other way, 1, 2, 1, 2. Now, if anything, if you have that sort of idea in mind, you can actually make it so that your timing is based on that. Like we said previously, making sure you still prepare your technique properly is really important and you're not skipping any move. So, to make your kata nice and sharp, to start with, it's making sure that this happens nice and quickly. Once you've had that pullback, you execute the first move, so the timing is very much 1, 2, but you're executing the first move really sharp so that you finish this technique quickly. It's no stop movement. This is only really at a beginner level, but you're pulling your hand back ever so slightly to make sure that you move into that technique and having that nice solid finish before you perform the next two moves. So it's making sure that that first move is nice, sharp start before you then start the 1-2 action. So when you perform that 1-2 action, it's making sure that you still have that full range of motion. It's no cutting corners. It's still that full range of motion, but once that shoulder goes forward, you can then perform the second part of the technique. So if you think 1-2, 1-2, and then same the other way, 1-2, 1-2, you can get that really nice sharp start to the kata. So that pull back starts to move, and you have a nice sort of finish before then performing another 1-2. And then when you perform it the other way, it's making sure that you finish that turn before you then execute the next 1-2. You don't want to be rushing into it so that it becomes way too much and you're not then finishing each technique. So if anything, those two parts, you finish the technique quickly before then performing the double technique. So putting this hand back quickly to finish the technique, and then another 1-2 action before then performing the next bit, 1-2 action. And every technique is still very clear, but it's still very sharp. And you can go through this over and over again so you get a really good rhythm in your timing for the start of the kata. Just a quick reminder, keep up to date with Norwich Karate Academy by clicking that subscribe button. Now the last top tip is probably something that is focused more at a higher level where you're looking for those little things that are going to make a big difference to your kata. And in Heian Nidan, there is a really good opportunity to make use of using your shoulders as well as your hip to generate good power when you perform your techniques. In some parts of the kata, where we talked about having good full preparation, this is where you can think about making sure you use your shoulder to generate power. So when it comes to the uppercut movement, rather than having a movement of just moving your arms, you're trying to think about using your shoulder. Very much about things like when you take your shoulder hand or certain techniques where you're rotating your hips. It's the same movement when you rotate your hips. Your shoulder has to drive forward as well with your hip, and you're not stopping square. So this can be relatable to the first few moves of Heian Nidan. When you're performing it, it's not just about this shape that you're thinking about. You're utilizing your hip movement as well as your shoulder to generate that power. You've got to use this arm as a way of performing an uppercut. As if you're doing a reverse punch, for example. You wouldn't just punch and keep your body still. You would use your shoulder and your hips whilst keeping your knee still to generate that power. And it'd be the same when you perform an uppercut. Your shoulder has to go forward before you then use your shoulder to come back. So it happens on both sides. It's making sure that that shoulder movement is done to its maximum, and it's not just about moving the arm forward and back to your hip. It's using the shoulder movement to generate power for the uppercut, and then you're using this pulling action to represent a pull in order to perform the punch. So when you want to perform this move, try and think about moving your shoulder forward rather than keeping your body still and perform the move quickly. Use your shoulder to use the dynamics of this movement so that everything goes forward and then you reopen your hips. Same the other way, using the shoulder movement and your hip rotation to really make sure you generate power before you then help with that pull movement to perform the punch afterwards. So you can probably notice the progression in the top tips that we provided, where at a beginner level, the kata should be broken down so that every move is performed correctly and you understand how to move. But then as you progress onto the different bits of feedback, you can see that it's actually all related and it's getting that gradual build-up from understanding the kata to its very simple term to its more advanced levels. As always, thank you ever so much for watching, and make sure you subscribe to our channel so that way you'll be able to keep up with the next kata series that we post on our YouTube channel. See you soon.